everyone, welcome back. So as promised in my last Demon Slayer video, which you probably didn't get to see because Aniplex took it down, today I'm doing a psychoanalysis of the Mugen Train dreams and subconscious. And I'm gonna be super careful not to break any copyright policies. Let's get started. I've decided to go by order in which we see each of their subconscious, which puts our fiery good boy Rengoku first. Movie spoilers ahead. So Rengoku is the only one of the four that has two dreams. In the first, he slays the demon and gains 3 new recruits to train. The narrative clearly made a point to show Inosuke's inexperience, going gung-ho into the fray while there was an innocent bystander, just so Rengoku's abilities can shine that much brighter. That isn't to say Kyojuro is a show-off, but it does indicate that he desires the recognition of others in some form or another, if the way the trio circles him and cheers is any indication. Also, why does Zenitsu look like an inbred beaver? Oh, right, I think it's canon he has an overbite, right? I guess it's just really noticeable to Rengoku. Ah, well, I digress. According to the manga, apparently the Flame Hashira lineage goes back a long ways, and it's something his father once took pride in. So that could explain why having successors is equally important to Ren, and it's the reason that Tanjiro and the others all ask to be his apprentices. They also call him Aniki, but I'll delve into that more after the next dream. In Rengoku's second dream, he's back at home, talking to his father and telling him that he finally became the new Flame Hashira. Only, instead of rejoicing at the good news, his father tells him that it was pointless and that he will never become anything great. Afterwards, he relays the truth to his little brother Senjuro, who is upset from hearing this. I touched a bit on this in my full Mugen Train review, if I'm ever able to re-upload it, but I really started to wonder why exactly Kyojuro would dream about this. It's very sad for him to not receive the admiration he craved from his father, and Enmu supposedly gave the Demon Slayers the happiest dream possible. And it's this insight that actually reveals who Rengoku is as a person. He can only show the strength of his inner passion to Senjuro when he himself is facing despair, and that's why this is the perfect dream for him. He's able to give encouragement to his little brother in a time of need, even at his own expense. He uses his own troubles as a tool to build up others, and that's really such a beautiful facet of his character. He wants to encourage those weaker than him because he believes that to be his purpose in life, why he was given these gifts. And that ideology stems from the teachings of his mother. From the time he was very small, his mother taught him that some people are born stronger than others, and that is because the stronger ones have the moral responsibility to use their gifts to protect the weak. And Kyojuro takes that to heart on the very deepest level, which now brings us to the topic of his subconscious. When the intruding girl enters, she notices the entire realm, as well as his spiritual core, is on fire. Which explains why he can shrug off disappointing encounters and sad circumstances, because he sets his heart ablaze, knowing it's all for a reason, that he must face these things head-on and set a shining example of encouragement for his younger peers. But it's also a sign that his inner turmoil is severe and noticeable at all times, especially if we compare it to the calm, glassy atmosphere in Tanjiro's subconscious. Inosuke and Zenitsu's minds are treacherous too, due to their own crises of identity, but even theirs aren't burning. One more thing the intruder comments on is that Rengoku's spiritual core is fragile looking, like blown glass. And this is because his spiritual core had to adapt to the fiery inner turmoil he's forced to live with. I'll elaborate on that in a moment. So Gotoge made a special one-shot that was given as a promo to those who saw the movie in theaters, and it contains some Rengoku exposition. I'm going to moderately spoil its contents, so if you want to pause and read it now, I have left the link to the chapter in the description. If you're still against it, go ahead and skip to Inosuke's psychoanalysis. I'll leave the link here when it's finished. Alright, still here? Cool. In Kyojo's teen years, his father told him that he and his brother were talentless, and that they weren't worthy to be his successors. And I'm thinking that encounter struck him so deep that it manifests itself as the grounding reality in his dream that he can't escape from, even when it's supposed to be a happy dream. So deep down, he craves the recognition of his father, but if he can't have that, he'll make do with the admiration of others, namely his younger brother and sprouting pillars. And he's pursuing this goal to ensure they don't experience the same heartache as him. He wants to be like his father, who raised and trained him with bright enthusiasm, but one step better in that he won't quit or lose hope in his successors. And he does this by playing Mama Goose and trying to take the trio under his wing, vowing that instead of knocking them down, he will build them up and make sure they know someone believes in them, just like he says to his little brother in the dream. And I also think that's why they call him Aniki, or Big Brother, in the first dream, because he wants to play the reliable big brother role to the next generation of future pillars. Another thing the special one-shot mentions is that Rengoku suspects that perhaps his father made up that unworthy excuse because he wanted to keep his sons safe so they wouldn't die tragically like their mother. But unfortunately, without him confirming that verbally, all Kyojuro can do is speculate. His mother believed in him as someone who was strong, and that he had a duty to protect others, but his father was the polar opposite, saying he could never rise to be his successor and that his hard work meant nothing. So I think that huge chasm between the two extremes is the reason his spiritual core is so fragile. He constantly teeters on the edge of that precipice of despair, between feeling a strong sense of purpose and feeling he has utterly no purpose. And I think Kyojuro is aware of this, so he resolves to keep the fire lit and be a better parental figure to Senjuro and keep him from developing the same identity crisis. And this deep conflict that always rages on within the fires of his subconscious is the reason why, in the end, when he sees his mother, that he asks, "Did I do well?" These are the words of a very fragile young man craving reassurance. And when he finally gets it, he smiles. And I think that was the most genuine smile we ever see from Rengoku. He's always wearing that plain but pleasant, "I am here" smile. But this is the first time outside of his encounters with his little brother that we see his true smile, unguarded and relieved that he was able to do the right thing in the eyes of those he values most. In his first mission, the words Rengoku used as a final send-off to his fallen comrades were, "I vow to someday become admirable like you." Kyojuro strived to be the rock his lessers could constantly lean on, and I believe he succeeded. As we see at the end of the film, he managed to ignite the fire inside Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu, and made them want to train harder. In the other video, I touched more on the dying moral philosophy behind Rengoku's view on humanity, and I swear I will find a way to get that video back up someday. But until then, that's all I have to say on Rengoku. In the movie, I also noticed that Kyojuro and Tanjiro's spiritual cores were in plain view, whereas Inosuke's and Zenitsu's were not. Let's talk about that in the next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you next week.